Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Nashville. First off, I swear to God that Simon and we did not coordinate our clothes today. But we probably did use the same LLM engine to get a recommendation for clothing in Nashville this time of year. I hope you are here to hear about AI, because otherwise this was a long morning. How many are here to hear about AI? Okay. How about if I ask the question differently? How many are here to hear about how you can run your businesses more effectively, innovate more, and move faster? Hopefully everybody will raise their hands. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what AI is all about. It's about how we can run our businesses faster. And AI can do a phenomenal thing for that. I am a software guy in and out. I've been a software guy, I think, almost all my life. And the promise of software is to automate things. So the whole acceleration that we can now do with AI is obviously heaven for software people like myself, because we can automate even more. It has always been the promise, and we will always drive for it. And we are super excited about what is actually possible. And that's what we want to share with you here today. We will talk a little bit about what our approach to AI is, so you get a good feel for that. And I hope there's some of that you can also use as your approach inside your organization. Because you also need to have an approach to how you think about this, a strategic view about it, and not just dive into individual pieces of technology. While that will give you a lot, having the bigger picture, I think, will help you a lot. And that's what we are, of course, all about. That's the only reason we're here. But we want to transition very quickly into actually showing you product. This is not something where we're just talking about the future. I will talk about the future as well. But we're going to show you what is here today. We have more than 200 AI-enabled capabilities in the product today. So I think we can now, safely say that AI is just a pervasive thing about everything we do. AI is not a separate thing anymore. It is just pervasively there. And that's what we want to talk about, and we want to show you also today. So we'll get into more details with all these different things, and I hope you will really enjoy that. Now, innovation is a funny thing. And you're kind of probably wondering, why am I showing a steam machine up here? The steam machine was kind of invented in the 1600s. The first real structured steam machine came out in 1714. Fantastic piece of technology, and we all know, intuitively, what the steam machine meant for everything. But the fact was, the first steam machine that came out could do absolutely nothing except turning a wheel around. And it was really good at controlling steam so it didn't explode. It could have valves and stuff like that. But that's what it was. But it wasn't until people really started then applying that technology in real life scenarios. This is when the factories started to get automated by steam machines. You could have lathes and you could have other machines in a factory now that wasn't even possible before. So we completely revolutionized the industries, and that's when it started. It was actually interesting. We had our Connect event, the similar event in the UK a few weeks ago, and that was in Birmingham, which is actually the birthplace of the first factories that was driven in this way. It was also when we put the steam machine on 4 wheels that, yes, they created the first set of cars that were kind of clunky, but they created the train. The train that revolutionized transportation, the train that introduced the way that we could actually move goods around. We would not have had supply chain as we think about it today without steam machines, innovating trains, creating that thing. And you could say the whole build-out of the United States would not have happened if we hadn't had trains. So phenomenal examples of applications. And even till today, steam is essential in how we do power generation. This example is from New York City. And even though you don't use lumber to fire up and create the steam, you use nuclear power plants, you use all kinds of things. The fundamental is still steam that then drives a generator that creates the electricity that powers, in this case, New York City. And AI is the same. We are seeing a lot of fantastic innovation with AI right now that can do and have a promise of phenomenal things, but it's how we apply it that really matters. And that's what we are excited about, and that's what we are super passionate about. We want to apply it to the exact focus we have in the 6 core industries that we focus on. Industries that are characterized by industrial assets, service, maintenance, lots of people that are out in the field doing work, whether it's on the factory floor, in the field servicing things, or it's out doing constructions. In fact, the majority of the people in your businesses are probably not behind the desk. They're out there doing real work. And that's what we have always been focusing on, both sides of that equation. And we have multiple examples of that. You already heard some from Simon, but I'll give you another example. Today and tomorrow, there's more than 600,000 field technicians that have their schedule done by AI. Every single day, an AI engine that considers their skills, they consider the customer, they consider what needs to get fixed, they consider the route, they consider the traffic, they consider what kind of car they're driving, are they in electric or da-da-da-da. It can consider all kinds of things, bring data in from everywhere, all powered by AI. 600,000 technicians every single day, right now. So these things are real, and it's happening. And we see, in this example, we see customers, when come in and take these technologies, they see productivity improvements of more than 30%. And by the way, when you increase productivity of field service technicians by more than 30%, you also contribute to a much better environment by reducing the CO2 in terms of CO2 burnt by customer visit and all these different things. So this is real. This is there now, but it's in context of the industries that we are focusing on. We see the same in examples in manufacturing and in all the other industries that you see up here. And you'll see more examples of that today. Now, this wouldn't be a product session if I didn't show you a diagram. So I hope you were prepared for this. We're going to talk through that in a few words. Obviously, the foundation is our platform and our infrastructure, where we are, of course, we are cloud optimized, we're cloud first in everything we do, but we do have the ability also to deploy into production in private clouds, private environments, still taking advantage of a lot of our cloud technologies. And the reason we do that is, of course, we work with some of you that are in regulated industries. What we are seeing more and more, even though it's a choice, but we are seeing more and more that customers, of course, take full deployment in the cloud, and only customers that are, really under some certain regulatory requirements and all that stuff will choose to run their production environments in a private cloud or in a private environment. But we have that flexibility. On top of that, we have our IFS.ai platform that powers these things. The platform that really gives you the data services piece, which is absolutely essential in an AI context. As I mentioned before in the examples, we collect data and use data from all kinds of different sources. Because think about yourself or people in your organization. You make decisions based on everything you know. Not only what you could see on the computer screen, you know what the weather is like today. You know this and you know that. And AI is the same thing. AI needs to know a lot of different things: structured data, unstructured data, third-party data, data from the web, everywhere. So the whole data services side of things is essential. A lot of that sits already in IFS Cloud. You have data about your processes, your assets, your people, your customers, your vendors. Everything is in there. And you also have information about how these processes are working, how effective they are, and so forth. That's one of the advantages also with IFS. That data is already there in a very integrated manner with total integrity. You don't suddenly have a situation where, I have this over here and I have this over there, which data should I be using? Because AI can get confused just like you can. We call that hallucinations, and we are doing everything we can. The absolute most important thing with AI is to avoid these hallucinations so you can trust what comes out of AI. Now, on top of this, we of course have our composable architecture for the application. And one of the things that is really key for us there is that we break down the traditional silos of an application. So we don't think about ERP and EAM and service management and all that stuff. What we think about is, what is it that we need to do for your customers, for your people, for your assets, for your processes, and then we can compose the solution that exactly fits your need, and that solution works together out of the box. So you don't have to create an integration between ERP and asset management, or an integration between asset management and service management if you're out doing maintenance on things. These things work right out of the box. That's what a composable application architecture is all about. Now, on top of that, we of course have our very, very industry-specific capabilities that we then dive in and say, okay, what is it that are unique in these different industries, and how do we do all these different things? And on top of that, we have the AI use cases, the AI scenarios. And as I mentioned, we now have more than 200 scenarios that are enabled. It'll probably be the last time I even talk about a number, because it's irrelevant now. It is everywhere, and it'll continue to be everywhere. Essentially as well is that this is all built with an open interface. So there's open APIs, public APIs for everything in the application. APIs is not something we thought about after the fact and said, oh, we got to create APIs for this, we got to create APIs for that. Because APIs is actually what powers our entire user experience. When you access IFS Cloud from your desktop or your phone, you are actually going through these same APIs. And that's what enables us also to use these APIs for very, very intelligent, a very intelligent Copilot. Some of you have probably seen it already. You'll see more examples of it today. But it's also these open APIs that will allow us to have really very smart and intelligent agents that work side by side with people, side by side with humans, agents that are part of the workflows, agents where you can control their role in the workflow. You can control when you want to approve things from an agent, or when you want the agent to be completely autonomous. That needs to be in your control. It's just like when you get a new employee, right? Has anybody here really sometimes, tried to hire the absolute best person out of college that you can find? Anybody? Have you also found sometimes that person, when they come in, they start working, and they start making decisions, and you're just like, oh my God, did I hire the smartest person, or who did I actually hire? The problem is not that they're not smart, it's that they don't have the context yet. So they need to start learning about the business. They need to learn where they can get the information that needs to form all the things. In some ways, you can say that this smart new employee is having hallucinations in the beginning, just as AI will have it. So that's why we need to feed AI with all this contextual information. And we need to do it as quickly as possible. And we need to feed the agents also with the information of where they can go find the information that they don't have. That's what the agentic is all about. That's what contextual agentic means to us in this context. So we're very excited about this. Now, switching gears a little bit and talk about the types of AI and machine learning for that matter, because as I mentioned, these things are not necessarily new. There's the fundamentals of these things we have worked on for years. I mentioned we have more than 600,000 service technicians every single day that get scheduled in this way. But what really started to change things was when generative AI came out. This was when AI could start creating things. It would create things based on a prompt. You would ask it to create something for you. And there are many different examples of that, and you'll see a number of examples that we have in the product now that is related to generative AI. But what is happening now is, of course, the whole agentic side of it. This is where AI is no longer just generating things on the fly. This is actually agentic AI that is creating action. Not just things, but it's creating action based on things that happens. What could that be? You have a customer that reports, maybe on your online portal, reports a problem with one of the assets they have under maintenance from you. And the agent will automatically validate all the information, of course. It'll also seek supplementary information about that challenge. It can also be an asset you're maintaining internally. It'll seek supplementary information about the problem. It'll validate what prior situations we may have had that looks the same, and it'll come up with a recommended work order, a work order that looks at what needs to get fixed, what's the type of crew that we need to send out to fix this, what are the type of parts that we need, and it will issue the work order, it'll issue the reservations in warehouse, and it'll do all these different things. Of course, as part of your integrated workflow, so you control when you trust that agent to be fully autonomous, or when you want to have an approval in place. You'll probably want to have some approvals in the beginning. At some point, you build the confidence, and you let the agent be autonomous. That's where we're going. So it's a good way to think about these agents as digital workers that work side by side your colleagues, and it'll also be digital workers that become your personal assistants. Let's actually, for the sake of it, just call him or her Dash. Think about Dash as a coming together of what you know as Copilot and agents. And I say almost the entry-level thinking of an agent is what every single person should have at work and in their life, to be honest. But imagine this situation where you are maybe looking for information on Copilot. You're finding certain information and you are coming to a conclusion. Then I call it the entry-level agentic is you're basically then telling your Copilot, hey, please let me know if this situation occurs again, if this customer acquires this different thing and it's this salesperson selling it and this and that, please notify me. You have essentially just created an agent. Now that is an agent that works for you 24/7, or a personal assistant, if you will, that works for you 24/7, monitors this thing. You don't need to go to IT and set up business rules and all that stuff. You just asked it to do that for you. You've created an agent. And then, of course, you have the agents that can do far more complex things that you build into your broader set of business processes. That's how we think about Dash. Dash is that digital worker that brings all these different things together. The key when we talk about AI and agents is, of course, also the context. A lot of the things that you hear today, you're not hearing about this. You're not hearing that everything in AI should be in context. There's a lot of smart AI out there, but it has no context. It doesn't know. It doesn't know your business. It doesn't know your data. It doesn't know your assets. It doesn't know your customers. It doesn't know your processes. That's what we provide. That's what we are focused on. We are also focused on having AI and agents that are highly secure, that adhere to your data access controls in the company. You're not hearing a lot about that either out there. But you need AI agents and AI that adheres to these controls. Because even though you can say a person doesn't have access to certain data in your business, if the AI that person uses has access to that data, can that AI intelligence then be applied and given to that users that are using it? Probably not, but it's up to you to control that. You're not hearing a lot about that because it has to be in context of your business in order to be able to do these things. Absolutely critical and essential things. And then, as we always talk about with our embedded innovation, it needs to be part of the product. It needs to be part of what you get out of the box, so you don't have to, experience the challenges of all of this yourself, because these can be monstrous undertakings. And in fact, many of these proof of concepts, yes, they are promising, but when it comes to actual production, they don't come into production when people do them themselves on the side because of all these challenges. Because of all the challenges you see here, they're kind of like, we can't do this. So absolutely essential. Okay, and then of course there's the whole ethical side of AI as well. We obviously have policies for AI and how we will apply and how we will help apply AI, whether it's in the product or through Nexus Black, how we do things in this context. So those are some of the principles that we have on AI. Now, think about IFS Cloud as really that aggregator of data and information that comes from many sources. It can be data from different systems. It can be data from your assets. It can be streaming data from IoT. It'll also become streaming data from video and other things that can actually help feed all these different things. And that aggregation then allows us to do all these generative AI scenarios, and it allows us to have that agentic approach, as I have talked a bit about here. So I hope this is a helpful way for you to think about it. When I said before that there's probably one thing that you can take away here and maybe use in your own enterprise, it is actually that diagram that I showed earlier. I've had the opportunities to discuss, obviously, this with a lot of companies around the world, and I've seen many of them take that diagram and said, like, hey, we can actually apply that to how we think about AI in our enterprise. All the way from platform to data to capabilities to experience to agentic and all that stuff. So if that can help you, absolutely, please feel free to use that in your businesses as well. When it comes to different types of AI, we typically talk about six different categories of AI. That is a combination of machine learning-based AI and generative AI. We categorize them as 6. What you're seeing here is actually just an example of capabilities that are now in 25 R1 that we shipped last week. So it's out there now. This is available today. So a number of scenarios that are just related to these AI categories. And let's go through them one by one. Maybe we'll take this one instead. Let's go through it one by one by industry instead. How about that? So these are AI capabilities that are related to specific industries that are also in the product available today. But we can also look at it from the traditional way of just looking at it from a software category perspective and look at capabilities that are available when you look at it from a finance perspective, human resources, human capital management, all these different things. And as you can see, it is just everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. So as Simon also said, we really encourage you to get started, work with your contacts, work with your partners that you're engaged with, and really get going, because it's all there. We have the Value Studio also available, where you can actually assess the value you'll get out of each of these scenarios, where you can plug in some parameters about your own business and give you an estimate on the actual value it can provide to you right here, right now. Super easy to get going. These things are embedded in the product. When you deploy an update to 25R1, it's there. And that's a very different approach than going through a completely different proof of concept and try to make all this work and plug everything together. Okay. I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea of our approach to AI and our strategic thinking about this. And I find it important always to share that and discuss that with you, because things are moving so fast right now that you need to have good confidence in that the way that we are thinking about things, the way we are applying these new technologies and developing these new technologies ourselves, but how we are applying them in that industrial context is something that will really fit with your businesses as well. And that's why we are sharing this so openly, because this is really a partnership. It's a partnership for life in many cases, and I'm super excited about it. But I think, how many are interested in seeing some actual product now? No more slides. Yeah? All right. Please help me welcome Kevin Miller to stage. Thank you very much.
Wow! Look at this. Good morning. Just so I don't leave my friend hanging earlier, Penn State! Good morning, everyone. As you heard Matt, Simon, and Christian speak earlier, they all stated about the value of industrial AI. It's not meant to be this sidecar that we bolt onto the product to ask it questions. ChatGPT, Copilots, they are extremely useful, but only when in the context of your data. I thought we would make things a little more interactive for this session and actually show you the difference. You see some wind turbines up here. Let's say you're the maintenance planner in charge of planning maintenance for this wind farm. And you want to dig in to how we are doing with that preventive maintenance. Is it working? How do we do it? Can I just ask about PMs? Let's see what happens when I try ChatGPT just by PMs. Let's see. Oof. Prime ministers, project managers, product managers. That's not going to work for us to figure out the maintenance of the wind farm. I want to know specifically about preventative maintenance for the gearboxes inside those wind turbines. Okay, so we have some lubrication. This is all good. I know this stuff, but specifically for the gearbox that's inside that turbine. I'm looking specifically for like a 60-watt generator, 001. I don't understand that. So you can generate general answers. What about the operations manual? I'm sure it's in that information. Maintenance manual, operation manual. We don't have access to the operations manual. So I give up. This is an extremely useful tool, but only when it's in the context of your information, right? How many here have replaced Google with ChatGPT or Copilot searches? Quite a show of hands. How many of your kids are doing it? More hands? Okay, all right. So if I think about this in the context of that, perhaps you weren't expecting that to work because it's not connected to any IFS data. It's generic. That's not going to work. So let's look at how the IFS Copilot handles this instead. So here I am in the maintenance module. I've highlighted here that particular generator that I was interested in. Let's go ahead and ask it exactly the same question that I did before. So now it understands. Here are the preventive maintenance schedules and actions. That's great, right? We're in a step in the right direction. Because the Copilot now has deep contextual knowledge, I can go on and keep asking it additional information, almost a conversation. What's the work order history for these things? Could we get that information? Let's ask it to assess a little more. Based on history, would you say this equipment is actually in good condition? So now we get more of an elaborate answer, talking about what is going on with this particular asset, which is what we're all interested in anyway. We want to know, taken in a larger context, is this asset healthy? What's the projected lifespan? How are we doing? Here we go. As you can see, it's sort of given me now the summaries, extracts, all the information that's useful to me. Instruction manual, maintenance manual, service manual, CAD drawings, anything else that would be inside a document stored in IFS Cloud Document Management. I thought that would get a cheer. So I can click on all of these for reference. I can dive into that. I can navigate through those documents. And now all of these things, I would ask Copilot, would you recommend any changes to the maintenance plan based on what you know now in that larger context? The point I'm making here is, like Christian was saying before, what we wanted to target first was actual industrial AI use cases with that deep contextual understanding of what the data is doing. So here, the IFS AI Copilot, it does understand your language. It does know about your data. And it has access to the information that you share with it. As you can see, IFS Copilot now understands your industry language. That's the way we've built it. It has deep knowledge, again, of the data in your IFS Cloud, okay? As well as the asset and equipment-specific information and documents that you store within IFS Document Management. But as you know, AI in IFS Cloud didn't start with Copilot. Anybody know the first product? PSO. IFS has been leading in PSO, basically field service optimization, for the better part of a decade now. We're taking those algorithms, that AI that we've pioneered with large disparate field service teams, now we've put it into manufacturing scheduling as well. So I have the same functionality where I can do what-if scenarios against a production schedule. What if I took MRP and completely blew it up to include all these additional factors and what-if scenarios related to production schedules? What if I was able to tie that into supply chain and also automatically build this stuff? If you're curious about how this works, please go to the manufacturing breakout session this afternoon. You already know that IFS Cloud predicts when things will happen, such as when invoices get paid, how long shop orders will take, or predicting future demand. IFS Demand Planner is now updated. So we're seeing additional aspects of how that works. IFS Cloud uses AI to interpret images now and extract that information from those documents to automate things. Everything like registering customer purchase orders, additional delivery notes, as well as personal expenses. I'm a big fan of that one. It helps me get through the day expenses. You already know IFS Cloud generates and summarizes text. For example, generating a textual summary of a non-conformance report. IFS Polka uses AI to translate training and instruction videos in real time. Again, for your workflows on the floor. So let's go beyond all of that. Let's give AI and IFS Cloud some bigger challenges. Something we expect, perhaps, you would need people to do. Actual work. Let's take a situation that I think some of you will understand. Is there anyone here that has gone through a third-party, different maintenance inspection, or maybe been subjected to one? Maintenance inspections? Safety inspections? Yeah, see some nodding heads. Often these inspections are done by third parties. You bring a firm in from outside, they go through, spend a lot of days going through a plan, a construction site, different facilities. Then they hand back this report to you, often in a PDF. Usually we have now two options of how we're going to action those items. One is to say, okay, third party, here's access to our system, we're going to train you. Now you create the work orders and transactions to correct everything that you found. The second option would be, we sit down, you give it to some poor soul in your organization and say, go through all this stuff, action every one of these items, we need a plan right away. Wouldn't it be nice if an agent can interpret that report and build those work orders for us? Here is the work order generator that can take that document. Work orders automatically created from inspection results, findings, recommendation. It automatically picks up things like priorities, understanding certain language in words, critical, risk, failure. You can iterate with the AI now. You can ask it questions, make changes to the proposal. It finds automatically and fills mandatory information that it finds in IFS Cloud. Things like the site and the location, maintenance organization, even though these were not part of the inspection report. Again, context in knowledge. Let's take a look at another situation you might be familiar with. Anybody here have to develop requests for quotes for vendors, suppliers? It's a bit of a tedious task. There are so many factors that affect how you pick and choose, everything from supplier quality, delivery reliability, also things like, what are the statistics here around price, lead time? How soon can I get it? I might pay more to get it quicker. Is this an approved supplier, yes or no? Can an agent help with this? Again, this is one of those 200 use cases Christian mentioned earlier. Here, We've used our supplier performance evaluation functionality to rate suppliers on a number of aspects that are important to you. As you can see, there is a lot of data to go through, a lot of information. Let's create that RFQ. Different KPIs, all of that is already available to the AI. Okay? Now that we've created that request for quotation, we can ask the supplier specifically for what we are buying. We have some predefined prompts here, but I simply would like the 3 best considering what's important to me. Now I have my 3 quotes back from vendors. Now what? Hand key them all? Get everything right on all the details? No. We're going to load them into IFS Cloud using the scan order quotation feature. Done. Now that I've done that for all 3 of those quotes, I can choose the best one. This is for the GI sheet that we are buying. And voila. Okay. Everything we've showed you, or that I've run through today, is available in 25R1 now, today. You have access to it. You notice the Copilot is involved in a natural way of conversation in many of these cases, but not all of them. Did you know that while we were researching chatbots, the predecessors of today's Copilot for nearly a decade, the IFS Copilot is only a year old, just about right now. Last year in 24R1, we released Copilot. Hasn't it grown up quite a bit? When the first IFS.ai Copilot appeared in 24R1, it had general knowledge, like I could ask it help questions, find documentation, process steps, but that was about it. Now with 24R2, it got deep contextual knowledge that you have just seen, including the ability to understand your data, again in context. It can draw on information in documents that you have stored within IFS Cloud, but of course, only those documents you tell it can look at. But what's next for Copilot? Where do we go from here? In the next update, Copilot will be able to handle questions about all your data, also some of which lies outside of IFS. That skill in turn is the foundation for making the IFS Copilot available in other channels, not just IFS Cloud. Any guesses as to where we might be able to access Copilot? So here I am back on my supplier performance evaluation page. But let's ask something that isn't directly related to this page. Let's see what happens when I ask that same question completely out of context, even outside of IFS Cloud. For example, Microsoft Teams. Any Teams users in the audience? How nice would it be to ask Teams questions about IFS, your data in the application? Because I have not provided a supplier ID, it simply asks me, what is the supplier ID? I can continue to have that conversation about a range of different things related to my information within IFS Cloud. So I can have a Teams conversation with Copilot. Now, what we want to do, as Christian mentioned, is combine all of this, agentic AI with the evolution of the new IFS.ai Copilot. Let's have a look at how we're putting this together. Let's suppose we have 3 agents. Supplier selection agent. It's what we looked at before. It's good at evaluating suppliers, finding the right ones, evaluating those quotations. But then we have a second agent. This is the communication agent. This is the one that knows how to interact with suppliers. Who are the contacts of those suppliers? It can interpret, read, write emails as well. Lastly, we have the coordinator agent, the one that kind of ties it all together. This agent reasons about what needs to be done and directs the other agents. I had a conversation with a customer yesterday. Upstairs, they asked for this exact functionality, an agent or agents to do this work. Let's see what happens if we receive an email and what the agents do. Think about what a human would do. I would receive that email, I'd have to go through that email, I'd have to determine what is this late shipment going to affect? How do I get involved in rescheduling a whole bunch of groups? Am I starting a mass email back and forth with a whole bunch of groups? But in industrial AI reality and IFS, let's have the agents do this. Agents, of course, work automatically in the background. Based on logic, reasoning, LLMs, they're doing the work that we don't have to do anymore. Now, I've put a viewer up here so we can see what the agents are actually doing as part of their reasoning. On the left, we see the agents, the one currently doing the work and how they communicate with each other. On the right, we see a log of sorts, kind of where the agents are telling us what they're doing, how they're reasoning, how they're coming about all this stuff. What we see happening is that the agents are collaborating using tools to find more information that might be relevant to the situation they're in, trying to reason what's going on. Now, when the agents stopped working, and if we check the log, we see that they have stopped. Any questions why? Any guesses? They need a human to make a decision. So in this particular instance, they've reasoned, they've figured out the problem, but they need a human to actually say, is this correct, yes or no? They have a recommendation to swap out the supplier, but they want human approval before they do that. So allow those agents to do the busy work. Now you can focus on the more strategic items. Now, where does that decision request go? Any answers? Guesses? It's reaching out on Teams to me. Hey, quick chat. Please, can we swap this supplier, yes or no? So now again, I'm having that conversation within Teams to move this thing along. Who thinks that'll save some considerable amount of time? Good. So here, Kasun is chatting away to his buddy Harshana. By the way, these two guys are two developers working on this solution in the back end. I like calling them out because they're often the ones that are spent hours upon hours testing these kinds of things, right? What's going to work? We see here that Copilot is reaching out, wanting to chat. Okay? So it'll just ping you, just like that other sometimes dreaded Teams noise we get. You can change that, though. So now with the approval done, the agents can resume their work. They're going on to the next task. They work all the time. And there we are. The agents have now reached out to the selected supplier with the order. What do we think? Awesome. Now, if we stop there for today and think about how we get this going, right? This is just a small sample of the things literally thousands of people behind the scenes at IFS are working on to deliver this industrial AI vision to you as the customers. It's just a teaser. But how does all of this work? And despite my geekness, my geek heart at heart, I'm not going to go into a lengthy technical discussion or a dissertation related on how this works. But at a reasonably high level, as you know, IFS Cloud keeps your data private, right? I've had these conversations, I think, with every customer and prospect I've interacted with over the last year. It is not shared with other customers. Say it with me. It's not shared with other customers. This is a private space for your environments. Usually you'll have a prod, maybe a UAT that users are testing. End users can now log into IFS Cloud from virtually anywhere to do their work. I sit at home sometimes if I'm not traveling. I'm moving back and forth between a phone, a tablet, laptop, doesn't matter where I'm at. Inside these environments, data is persisted in a database. There are a lot of services running. We're using containerization and microservices to deliver the functionality of IFS Cloud. Now to use the new AI capabilities, each platform is paired one-on-one with a tenant in the IFS.ai platform. So this is how we're delivering this to you as a customer. Inside that tenant, there's also some persistence of data, like a data lake, for instance, for those of you using. And there are services, AI services, data services. All of this is still kept private for you. Some of our AI services do make use of third-party services behind the scenes, such as LLMs or large language models. What is important for you to know is that when we do this, your data is not stored outside the private IFS cloud space, nor is it used to train any other models from these third parties. Christian said earlier, in addition to making AI benefits turnkey by embedding them into the product, we also want to be open to enable you to use data and capabilities from IFS Cloud in your own initiatives, AI or otherwise. That's why he showed that layer in the graphic for the REST APIs, our new data pump service, upcoming data lake sync service as well, to make sure you can easily get a hold of the data you need for this type of processing. As you have seen both in society and in general, the AI revolution is happening, first in the cloud. The same is true for industrial AI and IFS Cloud. For all of you that are running IFS Cloud and our industrial cloud services, this is available immediately to you to use. For those of you who are running IFS Cloud somewhere else, in what we refer to as a remote deployment model, in 25R1, as Christian mentioned, that was released last week, you get the possibility to connect your remote environment to that IFS.ai platform tenant in our cloud services, so that you can also have access to the new AI. Lastly, for the few of you that are still running on-prem, we do want to eventually deliver this same functionality to you, but we need some help from industry. So it won't be this year, hopefully 2026 is what we're targeting and beyond. Now, as is obvious from this picture, the easiest, no-brainer, best way to get this information is to take advantage of IFS Cloud industrial services. Doing so gives you the agility to move much more quickly, and you get high business continuity, security monitoring, 24/7 support, 99.99% average uptime. This excludes planned maintenance, of course. Plus the fact that you still have control over when you take updates to IFS Cloud. Now, cloud services has gone through a major revamp recently. There's more flexible pricing, budgets. If you have budget concerns and items, if you've looked at this in the past, please take another look. New locations available for where your data is kept, along with offerings for both ITAR and EU restricted access. We, of course, still have ISO 27001, SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance that we've had for years. New offerings such as high availability, failover across multiple geographic regions, etc. So if you did look at that cloud services a year ago or so or longer, please take another look. I think you'll be quite happy with what we've done. If you are not on IFS Cloud, IFS.ai is not coming to the applications products. So apps 10 and older will not have AI. Get into our industrial cloud services. It's the fastest way to get it deployed. Take a look at your data quality. The #1 factor in the success of your AI initiatives is data quality. Without that, the initiatives will fumble. Activate. Who here has heard the term IFS.AI Activation Pass? Is that a familiar term yet? It should be. This is our easiest way for you to start adopting AI quickly. We know you're getting pressure from boards. We know your CEOs are asking about what your AI initiatives are. This Activation Pass gives you access to those 200 plus use cases for you to start playing around, for you to see that. Earlier, Matt asked about downloading the Value Studio. That gives you a preview of every one of these use cases. Okay?